Welcome to Let's Connect Greater Portland, a show about the changes and challenges we face and the great things that people are doing to make Greater Portland a fantastic place to work, live, and play. I'm Christina Egan, your host. There's another game-changing transportation solution that is flourishing right under our noses: electric bicycles. They have whirred and zipped their way into the mainstream. Indeed, right now we are experiencing a huge surge of interest and purchases of e-bikes in our region. How do they work? What are the regulations? Are they safe? How can e-bikes help us reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save the planet? To help me answer these questions, I have two experts here with us today in the studio. Cashel Stewart, he is the Sustainable Transportation Coordinator at the City of South Portland, and Jim Tasse, Assistant Director of the Bicycle Coalition of Maine. If you have questions for our guests during the show today, please call us and join the conversation at 780-4909. Again, 780-4909. We'd love to hear from you. Jim and Cashel, welcome to today's episode of Let's Connect Greater Portland.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you. Hello.
It's great to have you here. We're going to dive right in and start with kind of the basics. And Jim, I'll ask you about this. What is an electric bike? What is an e-bike? And are there different kinds? And tell us all about it.
Okay. So an e-bike is a bicycle that is equipped with a small electric motor. The motor, so there are three classes of bikes that are so equipped. There's Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Class 1 and Class 2 have a top speed of 20 miles per hour.
All right.
With the assist, and the salient difference is that a Class 2 has a throttle, so you don't have to turn the cranks in order to get boost. And then there is another type of e-bike, a Class 3, which goes up to 28 miles per hour and only gives you boost when you turn the cranks.
All right. So like 20 miles an hour, 28 miles an hour. How does that like compare to what a bicyclist without an electric motor on their bicycle will be going at? Like, what's the speed?
Yeah. So, I consider all of the e-bikes to be what we call a human scale speed, but Class 1 and Class 2 in particular. I mean, a reasonably fit road biker has no problem going, 17 to 24 miles per hour.
So it's kind of in the same range as a regular biker.
They are, yeah. I think so. I mean, when you get to the Class 3s, which can consistently go 28 miles per hour, that's a little bit faster.
It's only like on the downhill.
Exactly. But, they're gated at those top speeds. Anything that goes faster than that or has a motor larger than 750 watts in Maine is not an e-bike. It's something that it's a different device.
Like a scooter or something? Or?
Scooters are their own thing. And
okay. Just like lots of different categories.
If you want to learn more about the law and policy in Maine surrounding e-bikes, so I've just created a whole review of e-bike law in Maine that talks about what rules govern e-bikes, what is an e-bike, what isn't an e-bike, and what looks like an e-bike but technically is not an e-bike under Maine law.
No, we're not going to go too deep into all those details, but I would love to understand, has the technology changed? And Cashel, I don't know if you can kind of weigh in on this, or Jim. They've been around for a long time, electric bicycles, but they're only kind of taking off right now. What's different? Like what's made us change the corner where they've become so popular?
Yeah, I mean, a lot like pickleball. I think that the pandemic really shook things up and saw a few things, float to the top. The few things at play here, people had more time on their hands. A lot of people had expendable income because they weren't spending it on the things they normally would, socializing. The roads were quieter because people weren't driving around. And e-bikes are fun and accessible to a wider range of person. So you just saw people hop on them and it's exploded since then. I'm not fully caught up on how the technology has changed. I imagine the batteries have seen range go higher, so you don't have to charge them as often.
Just like car EVs, the battery technology is continually improving.
And you had said, e-bikes have been around for a long time. Like I think I was doing some research. I think the earliest patent for an electric assist bicycle goes back to like 1918.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the battery weighed like,
more than you
pounds.
did.
And I think that's really what's made e-bikes take off in popularity is, the improvement in battery tech. So the batteries are getting lighter. And with the advent of torque sensors, they were able to make an e-bike really have a bicycle-like experience. So when you're on an e-bike now, it feels like just an amplification of your own muscle power. And so I think that for a lot of people, purist bicycle riders, when they got on an e-bike and they realized, this still feels like a bicycle, I think that really turned a lot of heads. And the costs are going down because they're scaling up production. There's more people making e-bikes, so they're more available. And once you get on an e-bike, you realize it really can provide an alternative to your car for a lot of trips that are 10 miles and less.
Yeah, I'd say we're also seeing a lot of different styles of bikes come out with all sorts of utility values,
What does that mean, utility values?
So you can equip it with all sorts of bags and crates for carrying all the things you need.
You can carry your kid, you can carry groceries.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's changed the game. You can start to replace all these car trips that you couldn't before. Also more accessible bikes, so they're not just, for the very agile,
We call them the Lycra crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Precisely.
They're for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, but they're step-through frames that make it easy to get on. I'm just back from a vacation in the Netherlands and Denmark, and e-bike. There are so many e-bikes. It's not even worth talking about. Like, are they a thing there? They're just almost one-to-one, unassisted and e-bike. They're everywhere. And what was really cool are the number of cargo bikes, backfeets, where you'd see these bicycles that would have a gigantic wheelbarrow container in front of them. And you would see parents zooming around on these things instead of minivans. And they'd have 2 kids and a bag of groceries, sometimes with another kid on the back. I got a picture of a 5-person bicycle. And that's just, that would be a very difficult thing to manage if it were not electrified. But that motor assist, amplifying your muscle power, just makes the bicycle a lot more accessible.
Another good example is New York City, I know, is sort of clogged with delivery vehicles, both for food and for parcels and things like that. Use e-bikes. It will clear up those roads, and people can still zip around and deliver all the things they need to.
Just takes up a lot less road space.
Why do you need a huge truck to do it? Yeah.
Well, I was just reflecting. I was in Copenhagen a couple of summers ago, and I saw one of these bikes where it was. I took a picture of it also, where there was a woman cycling, but the front cart, it was in front of the bike, and it had a guy in a business suit.
Yeah.
Curled up in it.
Totally.
It was just it looked so random, but it worked so well, and you can just fit so many people on the roads when everybody's on a bike.
Yeah, my wife saw a similar scenario, and she's like, "Why am I riding my own bike when you could be, driving me around Amsterdam?"
Another way to spend quality time as a couple.
Yeah. But, and there's a guy in Maine now, Dave Cohen, who's a big proponent of e-bikes. And his real thing is the cargo bike, more than just the e-bike commuter bike. Once we get people using cargo bikes and realizing that they can go to the grocery store, you can go to the hardware store.
Carry your briefcase, right? You could carry your 3 laptops that we all have to carry around these days,
I mean, tons of stuff in these things.
That's great. So I know both of you rolled up here on e-bikes, so you both own them. I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about your personal experience. How do you use them on a daily basis? When do you not use them, and when do you find them the only way to get around? Cashel?
Yeah, sure. I have a Aventon commuter bike, very simple, looks almost like a regular bike. Hardly notice there's a battery in there, and I have 2 saddlebags in the back. So it's a commuter bike. I put my laptop in there. I put coats if I need them. I put a reflective vest if it's dark out. This time of year, it's definitely dark out on the way home. And I've been riding it. I got it about 5 months ago, and I put 2,000 miles on it. Most days I do about 15 miles. The commute's 12 miles, and I usually do something beyond that. But an e-bike makes that possible. I don't want to show up to work sweaty because I've worked really hard to get up the Deering Ave Hill on my way to work. I don't use it every day. I'm still using it even though it's cold right now. But if weather's really bad, if it's raining really hard, if I have a really long distance to go, anything like that. Me and my wife do have one car as a family, and we split that to make those other trips. But really, it's about reducing miles traveled, not necessarily ditching your car altogether, right? It's sort of everyone doing their part, and getting on a bike as much as they can.
And Cashel, as you're riding on the bike, can you describe the experience? Like, say you're going down Brighton Avenue, and then you're going to have to hit the hills in the peninsula. What does it feel like, and when are you pedaling and when are you not?
Well, so it does have different levels of assist. So if you're going downhill, you don't really need any assist. It's going to act like a regular bike. Going up the hill, you're going to need as much assist as you can get. And so Jim's point about the torque sensor is very important. It really provides for a effortless feel between pedaling and not pedaling, and going between the different assist speeds. And it's kind of like riding a normal bike, just with a little boost. It doesn't feel too dissimilar than that.
It's like having a tailwind all the time.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. For people like me who really don't like hills, it sounds great.
Yeah, but and I used my bike very similarly. I had a commuter e-bike, and I would just frequently choose to use that rather than the car because it was just more fun. Why would I drive to a meeting that's 4 miles away when I could have a little adventure on my e-bike getting there? And it always ride with a smile on my face. I've now added an e-assist mountain bike to my quiver, and my wife rode that for about 2 minutes, and she wanted one too. So now we have 2 e-mountain bikes as well, and those things are amazing, and again, they just expand your range, and my knees are getting a little creaky, and it's just really awesome to have that assist for exploration, for long rides, and your fitness is not compromised with an e-bike because, as Cashel said, you can select how much boost you're getting. So if you want to get a workout, you can turn the boost off.
So it's not cheating.
I do not think it's cheating. In fact, when I first got my e-mountain bike, and in a typical summer where we could ride bikes and it wasn't raining every day, actually I was finding on my the tracker app that I use Strava, I was actually getting faster on my acoustic bike.
Yeah,
just
that's
because
cool.
I was riding so much.
That's cool. If you have an e-bike, or if you have some thoughts about what you need to know before you buy an e-bike, we encourage you to call in and join the conversation. I'm here with Jim Tasse of the Bicycle Coalition of Maine and Cashel Stewart with the City of South Portland. Our number here at the studio is 780-4909. Again, 780-4909. And we're going to turn back to Cashel. I'd love to ask you a little bit about what you said about reducing vehicle miles traveled. Do you feel like the e-bike is actually replacing a lot of your automobile trips? And do you think that that's a solution for a lot of people in the greater Portland region?
I really do. But I do think it's a piece of the puzzle, right? We're going to need better transit. We're going to need all the options we have to get around. But when we talk about, trying to solve the climate action crisis, and you mentioned it, that transportation sector is the largest polluting sector we have. Most of that is passenger car trips. It's really about vehicle miles traveled, not getting rid of cars. So person A might be a single person, young adult, easy for them to ditch their car and do that. They're doing their part. But so is person B, who's a single mother with 2 kids and 2 jobs and bikes twice a week when they can, and carpools the other days or something like that. It's absolutely it's a game changer because it puts people of all ages and abilities on bikes, and that really wasn't necessarily possible before, when a bike was this intimidating thing for many to be on, and the roads can be intimidating. And it's certainly changed it for me. Yeah.
That's great. I know we have a question from a caller that's coming in. Oops, I'm sorry. We're almost ready for the question for the caller. But in the meantime, I wanted to just ask you, Jim, at the Bicycle Coalition of Maine, to tell us just very briefly about how motorists can make bicyclists feel safer. And we're going to ask you to be brief so we can get to Allison in South Portland.
Well, motorists can, pay attention all the time and, slow down and be aware that vulnerable users are out there. That's, the thing that whether you're on an e-bike or an acoustic bike, you hope people are looking out for you and paying attention to you. And if you're riding, you should follow the rules of the road, be predictable, and obey traffic control devices.
That's great. And we'll come back to this to understand a little bit more about what bicyclists can do to protect themselves also and be good companions on the road to cars. Allison, we've got you on the line. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi there. I am a recent owner of an e-bike that I love.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. My insurance person lived 2 doors down and saw that I had an e-bike and just stopped and rolled down his window and said, we've just overhauled all of your insurance policies. Are you aware that you need to have insurance as well for your e-bike? And that surprised me. So I haven't followed up with that, but I wonder if there's somebody in your panel who can give us advice about that.
Well, I'll take the first swing at that. That surprises me as well. E-bikes require no licensing, no registration, and no insurance. They are generally regulated as bicycles, which also don't require insurance. And the BCM, has gone around the insurance question quite a lot because we have events, and sometimes people want to bring e-bikes to events.
And so Bicycle Coalition of Maine is BCM, and
yes,
folks that are real experts in what's needed around biking.
Yeah, and our insurance says they are no different from other bikes, and so they are just covering. Our insurance is covering our events that may have e-bikes at them as if they were just bikes.
Jim, I'm wondering, to help give Allison some assurance and other listeners out there, that resource that you talked about at the top of the show of kind of looking at laws, is there something you might be able to add in there around insurance?
I can. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a good thought. I think that these documents are indeed living, and the tech is still new enough and the adoption is still ongoing so that we're constantly learning new things and adding more. But I've never encountered a requirement for insurance specific for an e-bike before. So
Allison, stay tuned and keep the Bicycle Coalition of Maine bookmarked on your websites because there's always great information that Jim and his colleagues are developing there. And thanks so much for your call today. We've got another. Oh, no, sorry. We're going to go back to kind of the safety issues of bicycling in general. So I know for me, it was really, I live on South Freeport Road in Freeport. It's 35 to 40 miles an hour. Often people are going 45 miles an hour. The bike lane is only about 3.5 feet wide. And my son really wanted to learn how to ride a bike, but I had to kind of take him to a cul-de-sac and not really get him out on the roads for a very long time. And I know a lot of moms feel that way and other people feel that way. So bicycle safety in general is something that I think people are concerned about, whether you're on an e-bike or a acoustic bike, as you say, Jim. What are the things that bicyclists can do to make sure that they're sharing the road well and also keeping themselves safe?
Whether you're on an e-bike or an acoustic bike, you should be, and acoustic is my preferred term. Cause
not like old school.
I also play, not acoustic, old school. Yeah. I play guitars. Bikes are a little like guitars. You got acoustic guitars and electric guitars. You want to be predictable. So you want to communicate with the other users out there about your intentions, about whether you're making a turn or not. You want to always ride with traffic. You want to be alert, and you always want to follow, the traffic control devices. So it's stoplights, stop signs. You want to pay attention to those. The Bicycle Coalition does offer clinics in urban riding, so we can help you learn how to negotiate traffic more effectively. But bicycling is a safe sport, a fun sport. You just need to be aware and alert, and most people
always wear your helmet.
Yeah, or don't land on your head if you don't.
Okay.
I mean, really, it's like a lot of emphasis is put on wearing a helmet, but if you're riding with a helmet on against traffic and doing other stupid things, the helmet is sort of irrelevant. And certainly if you get hit by a truck, the helmet may not help you. So it's much more important that you know how to ride the bike safely on the road. But wearing a helmet is a darn good idea.
So let's move a little bit to policy. So we know that consumer demand for e-bikes has really gone up quite a bit. Do we have things that are happening at the local, state, and federal levels that are encouraging people to start to try e-bikes or purchase e-bikes? And Cashel, I want to start with you because the city of South Portland has been such a leader in the region on promoting sustainable transportation options. And can you tell us a little bit about what's happening in your community?
Sure. Yeah, as many Portlanders and South Portlanders probably have already heard, both cities had e-bike rebate programs this past year. Both were very successful. We gave out in South Portland 89 rebates for electric bikes, and in Portland they had $100,000 to give, and it was gone in 2 days. There were lines out the door at City Hall to give out those rebates.
We have them in Freeport too. I saw them at the polls. People are advertising that there are rebates there also.
That's great.
That the town of Freeport's offering. So it's pretty cool. I know that maybe folks are following the lead of Portland and South Portland that have had One Climate Future, which is the climate action plan, on the books for a long time and includes things like promoting sustainable transportation.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and there is an effort to take the rebate statewide. And so the Bicycle Coalition worked with Efficiency Maine in the last session, and we changed the law that governs the rebates given to electrification, whether it's a heat pump or a car or an electric bike, so that it could include electric bikes. And we're in the process of kind of hammering out the details to that program. But nationally, there have been programs in Vermont, Colorado, Massachusetts, and they all have the same experience that Cashel described. They have overwhelming demand, and they run through their funding more quickly than anticipated. So it goes to show that there is a lot of interest in exploring this tech and adopting it. And, as Cashel had said, the e-assist lowers the barrier of participation to the sport of bicycling. And so we find that if you put someone on a bike who hasn't been on a bike for a long time and it's got the e-assist, they're kind of like, instead of this being, this is a death march, this is hot, it's sweaty, it's too much work, their experience is this is something I would do.
Feels like freedom. You've got the wind whipping through your hair and your helmet.
And your helmet. And so you're able to appeal to a broader demographic, and getting more people out of cars onto e-bikes or other, acoustic bikes, whatever, has a beneficial effect on safety overall, because if we have fewer people driving cars all the time, they have more, there's more room on the road, there are fewer cars, and the people who are driving, if they're riders, they begin to have more empathy for the people riding.
And Jim, what about at the federal level? Is there anything going on at the federal level to promote e-bikes?
The the feds are waffling. There was a provision to include funding for e-bikes in one of the federal bills, and my understanding is that got pulled, and we are, continuing to talk with our delegation about, how important this tech is for Maine and, really for low-income people as well. I mean, the e-bike becomes, an equity tool, because if you can't afford a car and the insurance and the maintenance and the fuel, you still can probably afford an e-bike. And we did an analysis using census data and federal highway data that documents that in all 16 counties in Maine, all of them, even the rural ones, 75% of the trips are less than 3 miles.
And that's actually consistent with how people move in general. Most people don't have a lot of long distance trips every day. They have a lot of short distance trips.
And that's what the e-bike is perfect for. And and you and I were on the the climate action plans transportation work group together, and I trot this fact out all the time. But the biggest bang for your buck in terms of reducing carbon emissions is electrification of the fleet. The second best strategy was combining bicycle, pedestrian, and transit modes. And we know how to really do all.
We know how to
things.
do it. We just got to do it. And Cashel, you talked about folks that who've taken advantage of the rebate program in the city of South Portland, and Jim was just talking about helping particularly people at lower income levels. Are you seeing that play out at all in your community? Can you tell whether these programs are really helping the folks that need the help the most?
Yeah, when we were forming the programs, both Portland and South Portland had income limits. So in South Portland, we had 100% area median income, and I think in Portland they had 80% area median income. And the whole point of an incentive is to incentivize somebody who wouldn't already be doing it to buy an electric bike and make it affordable at their income level. And anecdotally, probably half the people that came in said, I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for the rebate. And so that's what we want to hear. And that's, it just speaks to the success of the program and that it's making a difference.
Are there benefits to the city that you've seen from the recent uptick in e-bikes?
Yes, absolutely. I would say just overall, the more bikes there are on the road, the more alert vehicles are to bikes being on the road. And building up that bike culture is going to, have neighbors talking to each other about how it's actually not that scary and feasible. We've seen so many more bikes on the road in the last year or 2 years, and it really just seems to be exploding. And Jim talked about this a little bit. The safety on the road is improved, right? If you're on a bike, you are going slower. So if something happens and you fall over, you're not going to have a serious injury.
One of the cool things about the e-bike is, especially for that somewhat inexperienced rider, is it reduces the speed differential between being on the bike and interacting with motor vehicles.
Yep.
And so, especially in urban areas where the speed limit is often 25 miles per hour, it's, you can be going 15, 17 miles per hour on your e-bike very comfortably, and it makes it easier for you to move in and out of traffic.
Very cool. So we are actually getting really close to the end of the show. Okay, you've got something urgent. Go for it.
I have to mention this because I just wanted to illustrate or call out the Maine Department of Transportation, which has been really very supportive of e-bikes. And so the Bicycle Coalition of Maine has a fleet of e-bikes that we acquired in partnership with the Maine DOT to try and expose people to the tech.
So people can come and ride an e-bike?
They can come and ride an e-bike, or they can arrange for us to bring our fleet to an event.
How do people get a hold of you?
They can reach us at info@bikemaine.org. We're also working with...
Say it again?
info@bikemaine.org. And we're also working with the DOT and the DOL on a low-income workforce mobility program. So we're putting people who are, in recovery and having other kind of issues with mobility. We're exploring, letting them use an e-bike to solve their transportation problems as they reintegrate with work.
That's so great. Well, both of you have just been fabulous guests. Cashel, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, my pleasure.
And Jim, always a pleasure.
Anytime.
Yeah. I want to thank both of you and also Joshua, who is our sound engineer at WMPG, and WMPG, which collaborates with the Greater Portland Council of Governments in producing this show. You can reach us on Instagram at Let's Connect Radio. Join us next week for another conversation about the great work that's happening in our region with great people. Until then, be kind to yourself and to each other. I'm Christina Egan. See you next time on Let's Connect Greater Portland.